July 10th, 2012. Uruzgan Province, Afghanistan. A road that intelligence had flagged 3 times in the past month as a likely device site. The patrol from 3rd Battalion Royal Australian Regiment is leading a resupply convoy. Call sign Echo 21. Alpha rolls over a buried explosive packed inside a 20-litre palm oil container, triggered from beneath the front right wheel. The detonation is not a crack. It is a concussion, the kind that compresses the air in your lungs before your brain registers that anything has happened. Private Matthew Clark, the driver, later describes 2 white flashes, the rear door blowing outward, and dust flooding the hull. When the noise stops, he looks down. His right foot is shaking. He has approximately 14 broken bones across both legs. He is the most seriously injured person in the vehicle. Every single one of the other 5 soldiers inside is alive. That vehicle is not a tank. It weighs 15 tons, costs roughly what a suburban house cost in Sydney at the time, and was called a battle limousine by the officers who inspected it before it entered service. Its original order was cut. It arrived 3 years late. Its budget doubled before the first vehicle was delivered. Critics identified every gap in its specification, and they were not wrong about any of them. And yet, something happened inside that hull on July 10th, 2012 that should not have been possible. Something that would happen 120 more times across 4 war zones and 9 nations. And every single time, the result was the same. The people inside walked away. This is the story of the Bushmaster protected mobility vehicle, and to understand why it survived everything thrown at it, you need to understand the problem that built it and the specific, uncomfortable reason that problem had never been solved before. Australia, in 1987, was not worried about Europe. The 1987 Defence White Paper described a specific threat. Small parties of raiders landing on Australia's northern coastline, a coastline stretching more than 35,000 kilometres, most of it remote, unreachable by conventional military response within any useful time frame. The Army needed a vehicle that could carry 9 soldiers across that terrain for 3 days without resupply, in 50-degree heat, across ground with no roads and no guarantee of water. At the same time, Australian peacekeepers returning from Namibia and Cambodia were carrying back knowledge the procurement officers in Canberra had not asked for. Southern African armies had spent 2 decades solving mine warfare in exactly that terrain. They had arrived at a solution through blood and engineering. Shape the underside of the vehicle into a V. A mine detonating beneath a flat floor transfers its full blast energy upward through the floor, through the seats, through the bodies above. A V hull deflects that energy outward. The Australians who saw it work came home and argued for it until the resistance wore down. Project Bush Ranger launched in July 1994. 17 companies responded. By 1997, the field was down to 2. The winner was Perry Engineering of Adelaide, a prototype built in under 7 months, using suspension technology licensed from an Irish firm and drivetrain components drawn from American military trucks, giving it roughly 65% shared parts with existing Allied logistics chains. Perry's rights were acquired by Australian Defence Industries, who deepened the V hull and enclosed the crew compartment as a single welded monocoque of high hardness steel. Australia signed for 370 vehicles at 170 million Australian dollars. First delivery, December 2002. That schedule collapsed almost immediately. Design changes multiplied. Costs grew. By July 2002, the contract was renegotiated to 299 vehicles for $329 million, with deliveries pushed to August 2004, 3 extra years, $159 million extra dollars. Inside the defence bureaucracy, the Bushmaster had become a symbol of what domestic procurement produced when left alone. Then September 11th happened, and everything that had seemed like a liability became the only thing that mattered. The vehicle that emerged from Bendigo was built around one engineering decision that determined everything else. The V-hull was not supplementary protection bolted onto a finished design. It was the primary structure. Every other system, engine placement, fuel line routing, seat positioning, floor geometry, was subordinate to one requirement: a buried explosive detonating beneath the crew compartment would have its energy directed away from the soldiers inside. Every flammable component was mounted outside the steel crew compartment. An automatic fire suppression system protected the interior. 3 roof escape hatches gave the crew exit options if the vehicle overturned. The hull exceeded NATO Standard 4569 mine protection standards at level 3, not through armor kits, through the geometry of the steel itself. Power came from a Caterpillar turbocharged diesel producing 300 horsepower. Combat weight, 15,400 kilograms. Range, 800 kilometers. The cabin was air-conditioned, not as a luxury, but because soldiers spending hours in a metal box in 50-degree heat make worse decisions than soldiers who do not. Here is the number everything else resolves into: 15 tons. The Bushmaster weighed 3 tons, less than comparable American mine-resistant vehicles entering service at the same time. A Bushmaster fit inside a C-130 Hercules. The American Max Pro at 17.7 tons did not. The British Mastiff reached 24 tons and was largely confined to sealed roads. A vehicle that must stay on roads becomes a predictable target. A predictable target dies on a schedule the enemy sets, not the driver. In Iraq, from May 2005, 10 Bushmasters absorbed strikes that destroyed lighter vehicles and kept moving. No Australian soldier died inside one. The serious test came in Afghanistan. Corporal David Nicholson was inside a Bushmaster struck by a buried device in the Mirabad Valley in 2011. The blast lifted 15 tons onto 2 wheels. Nicholson walked away. It was the 3rd time he'd been inside a Bushmaster when a device detonated beneath it. He walked away from all 3. The Dutch army had been watching. Their procurement was among the most compressed military acquisitions in recent memory. After identifying a dangerous gap between their aging carriers and the explosive threat in Ooruzgan, the Royal Netherlands Army evaluated 8 candidate vehicles and signed for 25 Bushmasters in July 2006, less than 5 weeks after the requirement was first formally written. 23 vehicles came directly from Australian Army stocks and flew straight to Afghanistan. On September 20th, 2007, a Dutch patrol, Bushmaster, was hit by small arms fire, then mortar rounds, then multiple rocket-propelled grenades in rapid succession. The vehicle was immobilized. Every soldier inside survived unhurt. A Dutch AH-64 Apache was directed to destroy it with missiles to prevent capture. The crew were already safe. By mid-2008, 6 Dutch Bushmasters had been destroyed by enemy action. Not one Dutch soldier had died inside any of them. The Netherlands kept buying. If you are finding this account of what a 15-ton vehicle from a factory in Victoria changed about modern warfare worth your time, hit subscribe. It takes a second, costs nothing, and it helps this channel continue producing this kind of work. Back to July 10th, 2012. Echo 21 Alpha, 6 men inside. Clark with 14 broken bones, the worst of it. 5 others alive, all breathing. That vehicle was recovered, repaired, and placed on permanent display in the Anzac Hall of the Australian War Memorial in Canberra. The workers at the Thales factory in Bendigo renamed their robotic welding cell after her. They called her Debbie. 12 years after the blast, the crew were brought to the factory floor and stood beside the machine that had welded the steel that saved their lives. Then came Kharkiv. On March 31st, 2022, President Zelensky addressed the Australian Parliament by video link. He named the Bushmaster specifically. He asked for them by name. Within 8 days, Australia committed 20 vehicles, loaded onto C-17 Globemasters, 4 per aircraft, flown directly to Ukraine. 120 vehicles in total were gifted. Ukrainian paratroopers used them during the Kharkiv counter-offensive of September 2022, retaking Izium, Kupiansk, and Lyman at more than 7 kilometers per day. Ukrainian soldiers reported surviving mortar rounds, Grad rocket impacts within 15 meters, and anti-tank mine strikes, each time with the hull intact. They called it a home on wheels. More than 1,300 Bushmasters have been built at Bendigo. 9 nations operate them: Australia, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Japan, New Zealand, Indonesia, Jamaica, Fiji, and Ukraine. Japan purchased its first 4 in 2014 and later expanded to over 28. New Zealand ordered 48 across 2 contracts. British Special Forces operated a heavily modified variant in Iraq, Afghanistan, and against the Islamic State. In April 2026, Australia ordered 268 next-generation vehicles at 750 million Australian dollars. The factory that bureaucrats nearly shut down 4 times is building into the early 2030s. Over 120 confirmed blast events. 0 passenger or driver fatalities from inside the hull. The critics were not wrong about the gaps. They were just wrong about which number mattered.